The system.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to a very, very special episode of the one, the only Saturday afternoon's main event. Of course, as you can see from the title down there, you already know who this is. If you don't, go back to school. I'm just going to let you know from now on. It's the phenomenal one. Yes, I am here once more to go ahead and give you guys laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. But once more, I'm with my co-host, who also, if I can say, has not suffered from a food coma this Thanksgiving, certainly here in the flesh, maybe having some technical difficulties because it's going in and out, feed's going crazy. I know Thanksgiving, Black Friday, probably a little too much shopping up in the Northeast, but it's okay. Why? Because we have the one, the only limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun, Mr. Peeps Nate. Woo! Peeps!
Hey,
how are you?
What's
here?
going on? Looks like we're having some technical difficulties here. I think I see kind of frozen a little bit, but yeah, I'm here.
That's great to hear, man. That's great to hear. So, of course, as I said before, we're here to give you laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. And once more, we just got to go ahead and say thank you to the O's that are going ahead and tuning in, whether you're on YouTube, Twitch, whatever the case may be. You're here, and you're here for one thing and one thing only. That's to go ahead and enjoy this with us. Now, I did go ahead and point out something a couple of weeks back, and I said that we would be doing something new. And what we're going to be doing new is that we are going to give you fans more news. Now, does that mean in the terms that we're going to be out here for more 3 hours? No. We're just saying we're giving you more news. But in what concept? So listen, I'm not a machismo, certainly not a bad guy, but I have to say, like Razor, we move in bad moves. Now, we're going to go ahead and start off Saturday afternoon's main event with something new, and that is called Fast Track. What is that, you may ask? It is a new way to go ahead and give you guys more news in the span of at least 3 to 4 minutes. Now, as I said, Peeps is going through some technical difficulties. He can join in, join back out. It's okay. He's going to get that resolved, and I know he can probably hear me, so it's okay. But, as I said, Fast Track. So we're going to go ahead and get into the first one itself, and that is Seth Rollins getting attacked on Raw by a crazed fan. Let me just say, in my end, this is just BS. How in the world do you let something like this happen? A crazed fan comes in at Raw after Survivor Series in a match where after Seth Rollins defeats Finn Balor, a fan goes ahead and tries to beat the living daylights out of Seth Rollins. And you know what he said, Peeps? It's funny. This man goes on and says, my plan was to help Finn Balor. I'm a fan. I like his aura, his attitude. I like everything about his charisma. I like everything about him. I jumped from where I was sitting at and I ran and speared Seth Rollins. I busted his lip open and he caught me in a headlock. I broke the headlock and I was trying to get to him. Then the referees and security guards broke us apart. What are your thoughts on this, Peeps?
It sounds like absolute insanity that somebody would actually believe that a catfishing scheme would lead a fan to run on out from the crowd, run all the way around the railing and spear a talent. First and foremost, for the fan, why would a multi-million-dollar wrestler need money from you? That would probably be the first thing that would pop into my head. That's the first thing. Second of all, you pay a ticket for the wrestlers to be entertaining you down there. You, the fan, paid your ticket to stay back there. There is no reason why I should cross over there into their territory unless I want to get my head kicked in. And we've heard of instances of this happening over the years of fans trying to jump into the ring and try to be part of the show, hijack the show. And it usually ends up being very bad for that particular fan.
Oh yes. So certainly, this dude's in jail. I know he got a felony. He can't even go ahead and go back to any of the WWE shows. So that's said and done. But of course, AEW had some fun with having Darby Allin go ahead and spear dude this past week on Dynamite. But we don't talk about that, you know. Second piece of topics that we have today is Brock's ban has been lifted. Yes, Brock Lesnar himself.
Lifted.
Literally. And not lifted where he puts Adam Pearce over his shoulder and F5s and I'm talking lifted, you know. Ban is gone. This man will be back on SmackDown next week as heard by Caleb Braxton. What are your thoughts on this, peeps?
I actually like where they're going with this, and the way that they did it was that they have this healthy banter going on between Caleb Braxton and with Paul Heyman, and they're bringing in the fact that even though they're not going to be wrestling each other until probably later on next year, maybe, to keep it fresh by having them both in between, and that conversation that makes the fan think, oh, there's some intrigue here, something's going on there. And then it also makes sure that Roman Reigns is still looking at who's in front of him, but at the same time knowing that there's a cloud over him that is actually encompassing the storyline. So I like what they're doing there. And then you have your ancillary part storyline that's kind of keeping this from getting boring. They're doing just enough to keep it there.
Of course. But from moving from that, we get to the third piece of news, and that is the Young Bucks ban. Well, I mean, they getting paid. Young Bucks have signed a 2-year extension with All Elite Wrestling, meaning they will be there for 5 years. Peeps, what does that mean for AEW and their tag team division?
It means that the AEW tag team division will have the linchpin of the division there for quite some time. They're still within their super clique. They're still within the elite. And then you're going to still have other teams that have been wanting to get matches or haven't had matches. One of the best matches that I'd ever seen as far as tag team wrestling was when I saw Red Dragon at a Ring of Honor show at the Manhattan Center years ago go up against the Young Bucks for all of the marbles. If Kyle O'Reilly gets out of his contract and he rejoins his partner in AEW, I would love to see that match. There are so many other tag team matches there that I would love to see that we're going to probably get a chance to see finally, because the Bucks aren't going anywhere. And I don't think I don't think it's a stretch to say that it wasn't expected. They're not going anywhere.
Of course, literally so. But I mean, with what you said about, the Dragons, I mean, truth be told, I mean, with Bobby Fish and Adam Cole actually being in, a tag team itself, there is talks about an Undisputed Era faction being formed in the AEW once Kyle O'Reilly gets out, and so with Roderick Strong. Do you believe in any of that?
I think it could happen. I don't see this company, the WWE, using any of these guys because of the edict that Vince McMahon has on NXT as far as getting younger, taller, bigger, stronger guys that cut promos and less of the independent veterans that have been around. So I think that we're continuing to see the purge of talent from the old NXT, bridging, see what happens from there. I can see it happening.
Certainly, I hear you on that. Next order of business. This is something that I've, completely sent prayers out for himself. Legendary Hall of Famer, man in himself, probably one of the greatest men that have ever done color commentary for professional wrestling, will be taking a leave of absence for cancer treatment. That man himself is Jim Ross. All I can go ahead and say is I hope that everything goes well, gets prepared to go ahead and be back in December by chance, and if God willing, goes ahead and gets back to a normal self. Peeps, do you feel the same way?
Oh, yes. And even more so to show you what kind of warrior Jim Ross is. He did commentary over the last 3 weeks after having back surgery also. So he had back surgery and also is going to go through treatment for this, I believe it's skin cancer, that he showed, I believe, on his Twitter page as far as what one of the lesions looked like. So he's going to be getting treatment for that. He's going to take some time off. We know what he's gone through, what he has gone through. And he will come out of this on the other side, and we will see him and his voice, and as far as I'm concerned, if not one of the greatest, potentially the greatest broadcaster in the history of this business, bar none.
Oh yes, I certainly agree with you. So Jim, get well soon. Good old JR. Next topic itself is now the rated R superstar WWE Hall of Famer Edge will be back on Raw this Monday. What do you think WWE has planned for Edge? Peeps?
Intrigue. Something. Yeah, that's what I think that they would probably say. In all reality, Edge being back on Raw, it's the list that the show needs because they need more eyeballs to watch the show. I think that you have plenty of things that you can do, especially when you have talent that is on that Raw roster where they have a 3-hour show to fill more content up and to be able to introduce him and bring in new feuds.
Yes.
Something else to make you realize that he's on the show. As opposed to when he was on SmackDown where we knew we would plug him in with Roman Reigns or any of the other talent that's there. Now that he's on Raw and he's going to show up, this is going towards that pay-per-view that's happening January 1st and eventually towards the Royal Rumble.
Certainly can agree with you on that. Next, Order of Business, future WWE Hall of Famer himself also. And now in AEW, Bryan Danielson says that he will be done with professional wrestling in the year 2024, saying that this is his last stint. Peeps, how many title reigns do you see Bryan Danielson having in the next 3 years?
I can see 1, maybe 2 tops. I think he'll definitely have at least 1 AEW World Title reign and maybe a Tag Team Championship. Let's try and get him as a Triple Crown winner and have him win a TNT Championship to show that he still has it. You know, a lot of things can happen between now and the end of his contract. But I think that initially, right now, the main goal that they're going for is him trying to win that AEW World Championship. And I think that's where they're leaning his attention towards. And I think that they're doing it in a way that it's a slow burn, but eventually will happen.
Got you on that. And finally, isn't it funny that I gotta go ahead and use finally when I go ahead and say this, since this is the last topic for Fast Track, and that is Twitter erupting with the Great One not showing up at his own tribute show. And if you do not know who the Great One is and you're not synonymous with this moniker, then I gotta go ahead and tell you that it's the jabroni beating, pie eating, trailblazing, eyebrow raising, stronger than a bear, faster than a buck, the biggest thing to hit Canada because the Maple Leafs suck, The Rock. Peeps, this past week at Survivor Series, this man didn't go ahead and show up for his own tribute show. 25 years. And being that it was in New York, you had the catch that this man was going to be there. But instead, what did we get instead of The Rock? We got The Egg. Peeps, rant this out for me.
Here's your rant. If the WWE, who I am pretty sure probably knew that The Rock was not going to show up because he is in Australia filming a movie and can't travel to the United States because he'd have to quarantine. Knowing all of that, and knowing that the WWE intimated that they were going to do a tribute to The Rock, so much so that the main event was crafted the way it was, probably with the anticipation of The Rock having some kind of interaction with Roman Reigns at some point. Knowing that that was the case, not saying that they advertised that he was going to be there, but knowing that it was highly intimated that there was some sort of involvement, and then to put a 25-man battle royal named after the Great One, and talking about his 25th anniversary of him being there, his first match at the Survivor Series. And then for them to be a no-show, for all of the clips that they showed during the show and making sure that we know who he was and things that he did and up and down the card. And to not even have a video package, a video tribute, that is one of the ultimate bait and switches I have seen at this company in quite some time. And this company has done a lot of them in the last year or so. So for that to be the case,
Yes.
and those fans to be in the crowd, and then to have it no Rock, what can I tell you? This is what the WWE is looking for. To have, instead of having The Rock, you have an egg as the single solitary motivation to show the people that that's what we're looking for as far as The Rock. Really.
And then continue the whole storyline by having it being lost. Let's not get into that either. You know something? Peeps, I'll say it for you. I digress.
Thank you. I was waiting for that.
No problem.
I felt that digress happening, but I kind of let it low, because we still got some show to go. So
No problem. Of course, certainly.
yes.
But being that, as I said, this was the first inaugural fast track, we'll be looking to go ahead and have this many more months to come, weeks to come, because this is how we want to deliver to you, the fans, more news in the realm of professional wrestling. So stay tuned for that, because in weeks to come, we will continue to be doing this, because of course it is fun to do. But without further ado, let's get into the good stuff, right, peeps?
Yes.
And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start off Saturday afternoon's main event with something completely, as said before, probably last week, this is something that I really wanted to get to. And you know what that is? The best in the world versus the less famous Miz. You see where I'm going with here? You see what I'm going with here?
Yes.
And to the other fans in the professional wrestling world, you know what I'm going with here also. But if you don't, let me just go ahead and put up the picture for you, and you see it right there on the right-hand side of your screen. As you can see, it is the best in the world, CM Punk, going ahead and having his promo against the less famous Miz, the man who has idolized him for countless years and looks up to him and maybe even mimics him. That is Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF. And this past week on Dynamite, for the Thanksgiving Eve show, we got, by far, one of the best cut promos in modern time. And to say that it went 18 minutes, peace.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. That was one of the best promos that I've seen in quite some time. Here's the funny thing. I and you and many other people have dumped on the WWE for starting off a show where they would have a long promo, something along the lines of what we saw in AEW. And for all intents and purposes, we were correct in a lot of our estimations, mostly because those promos, they kind of dragged on, and a lot of them came across as scripted. We have a 3-hour show, we have a 2-hour show, we're going to just string it along and string it along, string it along. As evidence, just to bring up where I'm coming from, this SmackDown that was just on yesterday, Roman Reigns, they opened up the show. His entrance was 6.5 minutes. From the time they played his music to him coming to the ring, and then them playing a vignette about what happened at the Survivor Series, to coming back to the ring, that took almost 6 minutes. And there was nothing there except building what had happened. MJF and CM Punk literally went and showed a promo class. Now, were there certain parts of the promo that were a little long-winded? Yeah, we can say that. You know, MJF looked like he was kind of stretching for a little bit of time in between his insults and his jabs to try to get things going to build. But as I said with the CM Punk and Eddie Kingston promo battle that they had, there was a beginning, a slow burn, you had a mid-card part of it, then you had a crescendo, and then you had the big blow-off. And then it was almost teased as if they were going to go at it, but they didn't. And the greatest thing about this promo is something that this is personally one of the things that I liked about it. I know a lot of people will feel differently, but indulge me on this one. the way that it happened was this was before CM Punk's match. He was supposed to have a match right after
Yes.
that promo. Now, normally when we see a promo battle like this, the person that just had the exchange would interfere in the person's match, or would show up and do something, or would hang around commentary and continue to cut insults. That was the
Yes.
last time we saw MJF the rest of the show. And after CM Punk and his match was over, that was the last time we saw CM Punk. That builds intrigue because next week you're wondering, wow, what are these guys going to say to each other next? Who are they going to talk about? How are they going to build on what we just saw there? And as you're going to point out, there were so many good things about this promo that caught lots of people
Lord
not
have
only by
mercy.
surprise, but were also entertained because those 20 minutes, 18 minutes and change, they flew by like that.
Oh, yes. I mean, from the beginning, I mean, when I heard MJF start, calling him Punky Brewster, trying to get a laugh out the crowd, to getting the boos, I mean, of course, probably one of the best heels in the game right now. We know this. But before he started anything, he said something along the lines of, well, get ready, Punk, because I'm about to finish you quicker than your UFC career. Okay, cool burn, whatever,
Yes.
Then, of course, Punk goes ahead and comes back in and says, it's funny coming from you, the same person that has a picture of me on your wall. Okay, now we're getting into it, because now we're getting to hear the storyline as to why MJF is kind of like this. And the reason why Punk even says it. He's mad because when Punk came into AEW itself, he called out names of many other professional wrestlers up and coming that he would like to go ahead and have the courtesy of facing. One of the names that he didn't call out, Maxwell Jacob Friedman. Of course, that got him mad because Maxwell has looked up to Chick Magnet Punk for more than 10 years. Has pictures of where he has taken them with him many countless other times of meeting him. Of course, we get it. He's a mark for Punk. And, now it's kind of getting to him that since Punk never wanted to face him, it gets him pissed. But, of course, as you pointed out, there were many other segments, many other topics that were talked about, especially with MJF saying, I looked up to you, Punk. I appreciate you. Why? Because one of the things that I even like about you is that you're straight edge, even though never in my wildest dreams would I think a straight edge person would look like a complete meth addict. Wow. Okay, now we're getting to it. Then he says, you became something that you completely went against. I'm something that you do not like. And you know what intrigues me? That you became something that you completely hate. And I don't know how it happened, but you can even come out here and start preaching hustle, loyalty, and respect. The pop that he got from that, I mean, insinuating that, knowing the fact that he even had the 5 moves of doom at Full Gear, and now coming back to this, saying that he should be out here preaching hustle, loyalty, and respect.
Oh, yes.
Wow. MJF was getting there. He was getting there. But Punk, of course, had the clapbacks. One of the ones that I found pretty funny to me, even though I have one of them being the less famous Miz one right there down below, the other one that I found funny was, and I quote, Punk saying, listen, I know the timestamps may be different, but I was selling out Madison Square Garden while you was marking out for Rosie O'Donnell. What? peeps, let's just say I was out here off the edges of my seat hitting the, oh, you guys, sir. I'm completely going crazy about it. But for 18 minutes, I had to say I was entertained. I was entertained. This really bought it. And I remember even in the middle of it, you were texting me like, are you watching this?
Yes.
As a wrestling fan, you couldn't change the channel. You couldn't change the channel. If you changed the channel, you probably would have missed something complete. Because I'm telling you, each word that came out their mouths was something that you had to listen to. I looked on YouTube the other day, and let me just say, to be surprised that this was the number 2 thing trending on YouTube. Keep in mind, professional wrestling has changed over the years. But to see this trending on YouTube with about 900,000 views within the span of one day. Peeps, Tony Khan's doing something over there.
Yes,
He
and
has.
I think that to me the funniest barb, or one of the funniest ones, was when CM Punk was alluding to the fact that MJF considers himself upset that he's, that not being called one of the pillars of AEW,
You got
but that's
replaced
because
by
you got
Britt
replaced by
Baker.
Dr. Britt Baker. And I literally dropped my phone. That's around the time when I texted you. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Wow. I mean, they really. Now, I'm in the kitchen cooking for the big Thanksgiving meal that I made between myself
Of
and my
course.
mother. My goodness. All I could say was I had to put my phone down a couple of times, and I was afraid I was going to drop it. There were so many of those little things that were little truth bombs, and then you can tell that they were working it in and then trying to build that story and craft it the way that it was. It was really, really good.
Yes, but by far, I have to say, with this promo, I guess, as you said before, this is a promo class. People have to look at this now and say, okay, in the modern era, this has to hit peak, because everything that was said, it hit each other like at a different point, because once they said something, and if it really got him pissed, you saw him change out for a second. You saw them go ahead and move around for a second and actually, switch up gears. One of the things that I actually noticed from that was, of course, as we've seen, MJF has called out his mother and his father in
Yes.
promos.
Yes.
Punk alluded to that, saying that he was a disgrace to his mother and father, which is hence the reason why that you hate them so much. The way that I saw MJF turn around and looked like he was as if about to hit Punk in the face and probably knock him out like Kingston did to him at Full Gear.
I saw him word "you mother," and I'm like, "Uh-oh, here we go."
Yup. And the funny thing is he was like, listen, I know it gets you mad because I got to beat Darby Allin fair and square without using a ring. And then, all of that. I mean, there's something that you have to go ahead and see here. And it's like, I'm not even going to say that it's a paradox. It's not like it's not a pattern. It's natural. And it's that when you put somebody like CM Punk in a ring with a mic in his hand, you're going to get magic. But
yes.
It gets 10 times better when you have somebody like MJF in the ring to catapult off of that also. And I have to say that among a lot of other MJF promos that I've heard and seen, from the likes of him calling out Brian Pillman Jr. in his own hometown, to Darby Allin segments, to all of that. I mean, you have to go ahead and see that the trend in that is that MJF tries to hit home. He tries to go ahead and get there with you, because at the end of the day, he plays off being a heel so perfect that you have to somehow believe that this is his everyday life.
Yes.
And with Punk is now playing a babyface, which we know is not something that he's usually accustomed to, even though when he does play a heel, it pretty much is him being the babyface. There's nothing different around that. But now that you have MJF in the mix, he is the certain babyface. You know that he's the babyface. But those promos don't feel like it. The way that he speaks upon things does not feel the same way as to what it would probably be back in WWE.
Exactly.
And the other thing that they like doing, alluding to the other company, alluding to what WWE was and how he played it off there, knowing the fact that it was completely different, even calling shots with some of the wrestlers. I'm telling you, when I heard him say Miz on television, on Turner, I said, okay, Then I hopped on Twitter trying to wait for a Miz tweet, because I'm thinking to myself, there's no way this man isn't watching, because I know for a fact this man's probably sitting at home, and next thing you know, he just checks his phone and just says, Miz, it's trending on Twitter. What'd I do? Did I pull a Ric Flair and actually ended up on Amtrak or something? Like, what happened here? But
was I future endeavored while I didn't know it? I mean, what happened?
Exactly, but to get mentioned on Turner, that says something. To having to go ahead and get the illusion of John Cena, that great too. But to have all of that try to hit home somehow, that just tells you that they want to get real with this. They want to
Yes.
tell you, listen, we're building a story here. But we want you, the fans, to believe in it as much as possible. And with these promos, oh, God love Tony Khan. They're hitting it off the money with it, peeps.
Yeah.
I have to say.
And they're doing a great job in the sense that they are crafting a fine line right now between the WWE's product and AEW's product. WWE is much more mainstream, where they try to include literally everybody, but mostly children and teenagers, and then they get the adults who are going to buy the tickets to bring their children there and have something that's safe, something that's somewhat homogenized, etc.
Yes.
AEW is mostly getting the teens up to the young adults, and what they're doing is from making it that their base right now and tending to that base. Now you know that the base is happy with what they're seeing. It's going to be interesting as to what they do to try to grow the product. And by growing the product, now you have to get a little more reach. And I think that this promo, because of who they name drop without putting in certain names, you kind of know who they were alluding to, you know where it was going, and you actually know specifically who they were aiming the promos at, who it was for, and what the end game is going to be at some point. And I think the way that this was crafted was literally gold. Now, as I said before, there are some people that are going to look at this and say, well, the promo was too long, or maybe it didn't hit the way it should have been. I personally enjoyed it for the 18, 19 minutes that it was on. And like I said, it went by so fast. It hit on so many different levels. It hit on so many different points. And as Arn Anderson would say, bottom line it to make the people realize why this is going to make money. They did that last week when CM Punk got in the ring with MJF and didn't say a word and walked out. I was already intrigued.
Of course.
This basically was like taking a chocolate frosted donut and dipping it in more chocolate and then adding some whipped cream and sprinkles to it. That's what this was. Now, when they finally do get in the ring with each other, that is the equivalent of me eating the donut.
And that will certainly pay off, I have to say. MJF, CM Punk, I'm waiting to see where this goes in the next couple of weeks, months or so, because knowing the fact that there is no AEW pay-per-view for the year of 2021, the next pay-per-view that we do have, best believe I will go ahead and I will pull the short circuit move where, the AEW actually does host pay-per-view shows at movie theaters. I'll go ahead and I'll say, yo, listen, this is the only match I'm going for. I do not care about Bryan Danielson versus Hangman Adam Page, MJF versus CM Punk. Whatever this may be, if it's going to be like the trilogy type thing where you have the first match, then the rubber match, then the final match to end it all, or just plain old one match just to settle the rest of the feud, just to tell the rest of the story. However this goes, trust me, peeps, this will be something to remember.
Yes. And that's what I just cannot wait for. But I will wait for the build and see what the payoff is, because eventually they're going to get in the ring. And we know both of them are students of the in-ring talented part of pro wrestling.
Yes.
Mind you. Not entertainment, because the entertainment comes from the product itself. The wrestling part is now what I want to see.
Exactly. And I know they will deliver. They will deliver.
Yes.
But that is the first order of business. With that being said, peeps, we will go ahead and move into our favorite part of Saturday afternoon's main event. And you know where this is leading to, as I see your hands rubbing as if you were about to go ahead and dive into your famous mac and cheese. Trust me. This right here is something great. And these are the questions, of course. So without further ado, let's get into the first one from Tombstone City Adam. And he says, so I guess Aaliyah will be in catering for the next couple of weeks, then get released before January. Why the hate so quickly? You want to say something about this, peeps? Because if I say something, it's not gonna be pretty. So
well, it's not gonna be pretty either or. I mean, in all reality, the way that this company has been promoting people that came up from NXT has been literally head scratching. And to see Aaliyah, who's been in the company for so long, and then finally she's gotten that lift to the main roster. She won
Yes.
her match to get to the Survivor Series team, and only for Sonya Deville storyline wise to yank her off the team. It's a myriad. It's literally a checklist of question marks that they do with booking with certain wrestlers. I'm gonna have a miniature rant on Tony Storm when I get a second, but it kind of ties into this whole topic right now. Is the fact that obviously the company saw something in Aaliyah to bring her up in the first place,
Exactly.
and to keep her on the roster as long as they've had. And then to bring her up, she had a pretty decent debut on the main roster, and then put her on the SmackDown Survivor Series team, and then yank her off. As obviously we know why, but she's literally now in a couple of weeks. What else are they going to do with her now?
Of course. So it's like with me, listen. From the beginning that I saw her go ahead and win that tag team match, I was intrigued. I was like, wow, Vince is actually, somewhat passing the torch. Okay, another female star in the works of probably becoming something great in the company. And I completely enjoyed having Aaliyah go ahead and do something great, and aside from the fact that through her first match she was completely excited that she's completely marked out then barfed out. Not something that is truly talked about in the Twitter world, which we did go ahead and notice, but we don't talk about that because at the end of the day, she had a triumph, and that was winning her first match in WWE on her way to going ahead and probably being in Team SmackDown for Survivor Series. Shortly, that was short-lived because, of course, Sonya had to yank her off it. What's the storyline behind this? Do we get to see an Aaliyah versus Sonya? What is the reason as to why she's off? Like, she won the match, for God's sakes. Why is she off the team? Like, can you go ahead and tell me what's going on here? Like, just let me know, because at the end of the day, it really could have made a difference, Do not know why all of a sudden you had to go ahead and have, Bianca go ahead and win. I'm not saying that it was wrong, but at the end of the day, you're building Bianca for this other thing, saying, oh, let's show you what we got. Bianca is something here. Let's show you why she needs to be champion.
Yes, there's a payoff somewhere.
It's all mixed up, but here's the thing. Why would you have her lose the title in the first place in 26 seconds? We could have had this resolved a long time back. So that's something else. But I'm just saying, what the reason that this question eludes me is because Aaliyah should be wrestling, not in the back in catering. As you said, Tony Storm was doing the same thing a good couple of weeks back. Comes out last night on Friday Night SmackDown, gets pied in the face twice by Charlotte. But you know something? In the words of the peeps, Nate, I digress.
Yes.
But Tombstone City, Adam, we certainly can agree with you on this because we don't, probably come January we will see that name come up. But pray to God it doesn't. That's all I'm going to say. Next question comes from Long Island Isaiah. He says,
I like that one.
Britt Baker lost the match this week, Phenomenal One. How does that make you feel? Why should I be answering this question right now? Peeps, give me one good reason why I should answer this question.
I think you should answer it only because I know how you feel about this one. So you go on ahead and I'll bounce off of what you say.
See, the Phenomenal One is about to go on a rant, so be prepared, peeps.
Woosah. Bring in your inner Phenomenal One and then unleash the beast.
All right, I'm good. So, Long Island Isaiah, you want to go ahead and get the reason why I probably feel, a little iffy? Here's why. It's Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. The one, the only, the one woman who's actually held the title this long, so many title defenses, at least 180 plus days as AEW Women's Champion. Somehow, someway, she loses to Rhea. Now listen, don't get me wrong. Rhea was the first title holder. Hence the reason why she probably went ahead and did take the W. What does that mean in the future? She will be going against Britt Baker for the title. Since it was a non-title match, wasn't for the title, I'm okay with it. I digress. I'm okay. Trust me, peeps. I'm good. But at the end of the day, why would you make Britt Baker look lifeless? Come on now. She is the face of the company. Many people will disagree with me on this. But listen, it's Dr. Britt Baker. I've let this known for how long? This show has been on since April. I've told each and every single one of you that would listen that Britt Baker is the face of All Elite Wrestling. How do you like them apples? Huh? Well, guess what? You probably don't, because at the end of the day, you're clowning on me because she lost. But listen, it's okay, because when that title match comes on next year, best believe that Dr. Britt Baker will do everything that she did to all these other women, like Chris Statlander, Donna Rosa, Nyla Rose, let's see, who else? Ty Conti. Listen, Rhea will fall in line. Britt Baker will hold the title for more than a year. That's all I'll say. Peeps,
Yeah.
back this up on for me.
Okay. Let me just clear my throat on this one. Yes. Dr. Britt Baker has not really lost a match probably in close to a year as far as being pinned, unless it was in some sort of a tag team match or something along those lines. So she has been well protected. And obviously she's not only the face of the division, but also for a lot of people think that she's one of the faces of this company. So to have her lose in a match against a returning wrestler who we have not seen on television in a very long time, I think it's to build intrigue for why Riho is back in the company, the first AEW Women's World Champion, and to show that Britt Baker can be beaten. I mean, you juxtapose this to how we see with Roman Reigns in the WWE as being Universal Champ, and literally he's smoked everyone he's been in the ring with for well over almost a year, like a year and 3 months.
Yes.
So outside of that, there's almost no belief outside of Brock that anyone is going to beat Roman Reigns. And as we go into this with Dr. Britt Baker, there's a believability now. Rio is beating her in a non-title match, which means she's going to have a match at some point down the road. So I personally don't have a problem with her losing. It's who she lost to and how it was done, and then the meaning of knowing that she is going to actually get a title match down the road. But they still, as I've said before, the AEW women's division still has to build. It's moving, I think, slowly in the right direction, but that's what they're kind of doing. And I think the way that they're doing it is also building Jamie Hayter with a little bit of dissension within her faction that, oh, wow, she may have cost Britt Baker this match because of what's going on back and forth, and we'll see what happens with that. There is some intrigue there, but I think that this is starting to build some layers to this, and we'll see going forward what happens. But I think I don't have a problem with it.
I know you probably don't have a problem with it, but, phenomenal one.
Oh, I love Dr. Britt Baker. Trust me. I am a diehard fan of Dr. Britt Baker.
Understandable. You're just looking at it from the business terms of professional wrestling. I understand.
Yeah.
No problem, peeps. Trust me. Yeah, you're good.
Yes. The devil's advocate, so to speak. But I will throw in this. If you do invite the devil to dinner, eventually the devil will finish his meal. So just keep that in mind.
Smart man. Next question and last question comes from FinsUp23. Why all these Dolphins fans? Lord have mercy. I know I am based in South Florida, but the names. Cut it out. Like, listen, I'll just pull a Joey from Full House. Cut it out. Just come on now. But
I think you ate the wrong dinner for Thanksgiving. It's starting to show.
Most likely, I don't know. Something probably killed the vibe here. I really wouldn't know.
Oh.
But the question itself or the comment, I don't see no question mark, but it's okay. I'm still going through the motions. I feel that Jeff Hardy should have won the Battle Royal, but hey, I'll adopt Peep's term of I digress.
Yes.
What do you think about it, Peeps?
I personally, I was under the impression that Jeff Hardy was going to actually win this Battle Royal when I saw the last four, and then I kind of remembered that, wait a minute, Sami Zayn was knocked through the ropes in the Battle Royal to the floor. So I was like, wait a minute, at some point he's going to pop out. Now, I didn't think he was going to come back and win. I thought he was going to come back and rejoin the match, and then Jeff Hardy would eliminate him, but that didn't happen. So the fact that Sami Zayn is getting a little bit of a push based on his character because Sami Zayn is great. Let's really be honest. He is really good at what he does as far as getting underneath the skin. I think that we know that Jeff Hardy's probably on his way out at some point.
Of course. They're
using this last, I don't know when his contract is over with, how many months he has left on this deal. I think it expires next year. On that whole realm of, we have Jeff Hardy, we moved him now to SmackDown. Let's kind of highlight him in a way that makes him look strong. He's still having really good matches, and then put him, even if he's in a match with Roman Reigns for the championship, and there's no way on earth that Jeff Hardy's going to win, at least give him a small push to kind of look like he's being appreciated on his way out the door. He's putting other people over, but at least he still has some marketability to be able to be used. So they could do that. Will they do it as we go forward? Because remember, we do have a January 1st pay-per-view. I believe it's in Atlanta, Georgia. So maybe they'll do something with that. Maybe they'll do something with the Royal Rumble. I don't know, but I'm not booking the show. But as Mr. Fins Up says, I digress. There you go. Your first I digress of the show.
No worries, Peeves. I mean, as long as you said it for the first time, it's pretty shocking that we've probably used it probably 6 or 7 times today. It's the first time you said it. It's okay. It's okay. It happens. But it's, I can certainly agree with this, this itself, because at the end of the day, knowing the fact that it was in North Carolina, which is his hometown, you would suspect that somehow, some way, and listen, I read too much dirt sheets, so people were alluding to the fact that maybe at day one, you'd get to see Jeff versus Roman in a title match.
Also, the other thing I got to bring up is, do you notice how Vince McMahon over the last year or two likes to screw hometown heroes in their home state, in their home building on television? He did it with Bianca. He's done it in the past with other wrestlers. This is a great homecoming. And then you lose right there at home. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's an inside joke that Vince has with the wrestlers and the fans, or whatever is the case. A big double bird to somebody. I don't know. But that's something that's become a trend. So if you see a star that is in the main event of a show at home, there's a good possibility he's not going to win, or she's not going to win.
It's crazy, because this is actually the first time that you actually pointed it out. And wow.
Think about that.
Vince. Always got to be Vince. But
yes,
it's okay, because at the end of the day, we got we got another company we can look forward to, that somehow doesn't go ahead and screw things up as much. And I say as much because they are determined to screw up.
Yeah. But yeah, don't get it twisted. There are, I got that Bischoff reference, but there are many other companies that are out there that will do well with a lot of this. MLW is one of them. If you're into hardcore stuff, GCW is out there for you as well. New Japan is around. You still have NXT UK, which is still, as far as I'm concerned, still a really good product. Ring of Honor is on its last legs until they get themselves together. I personally think that they're pretty much literally a dead company walking. But there are other companies that are out there that will give you what you're looking for, that the WWE seems to be dropping the ball on a regular basis. But I digress again. There you go. There's number 2.
We're on our second one, people. Try to keep count of this. We'll probably have a questionnaire at the end of the year, or probably a trivia. If you get it right, we'll probably give you a prize. How many times have people said I digress within the last 5 episodes of the show? But if y'all listen, if y'all have actually been keeping count, you'll be good. But aside from that, that is the end of the questions for today. As I say, look at us. We enjoy actually, indulging into these questions. Keep implementing them into the show, because you, the fans, have the power of letting us digress in Peeps terms. But as I always say, go ahead and send them through down below at Saturday_main event on Instagram. Quick click away. Just go ahead and do it. We got you. Won't answer it. Guarantee it on the show at Saturday_main event. But it is with that we move into the next and last topic for today, and that is somehow, some way, peeps, before I say anything and before I go ahead and I display the ticker at the bottom, why? And I know the people are listening right now and they're thinking to themselves, what the heck is he talking about? Here's what I'm talking about. Who kills something? If it's not The Undertaker, who kills something and brings it back to life? Only one man. Vincent Kennedy McMahon. And you know what he's bringing back? I'm not saying he's bringing it back, but for some reason, who in the heck files a trademark for it? And you know what he filed a trademark for? The name Extreme Championship Wrestling. Yes, I said it, ECW. Now, listen. We've all been around for reiterations of things. They don't always come out right when it comes to Vincent Kennedy McMahon. But for some reason, he goes ahead and he files a trademark for Extreme Championship Wrestling. Another reiteration of ECW. We've been there for the first one. What do you think about the second one, peeps?
There should be no second one. There really shouldn't have been a first reiteration to begin with. Because anytime that I've ever talked about the rebranding of ECW, I always put it in quotations. It's quote unquote ECW. It's not pure ECW, although it's literally what NXT has become. It is NXT, whereas you have just enough talent from the old carcass to transfer over fan nostalgia and fan recognition and intersperse them with the newer parts of it so that you have a link that you can say, well, this was the first iteration, here is the second iteration. Then we're going to have more people go into this, and then sooner or later, they will give these guys the rub, and then we'll pull these guys away from it, and then you will have your ECW, quote-unquote, proper. What I see here is one of two things. Do I see Vince starting up ECW all over again? I don't know. I don't see enough of proof yet. This is just a trademark file. Maybe he's only doing this because he wants to open up and keep the trademarks relevant so that he can maybe sell merchandising, maybe put more ECW documentaries up on the network. Maybe it has something to do with IPs, trying to keep the IPs solvent so that he can continue to profit off of them and keep them associated with WWE and their other IPs and trademarks. The same issue that Cody Rhodes had when he tried to get the War Games trademark but couldn't. But instead, the WWE relented on keeping his name Cody Rhodes and using that in the trademark for him dropping the War Games trademark IP Pursuit. So this is probably one of those things that it is going into Vince McMahon and his money-making mindset. Now, if you're going to ask me if they're going to start up an ECW and if they should, no. ECW is a dead and buried company from way back in the early to mid to late 90s. They had a great run from about 93-ish when they were Eastern Championship Wrestling all the way until about 97, 96, 97 in that area. So they had a really good run. I've been to a couple of ECW shows. I went to one in Staten Island where the fans got into a big brouhaha with the Dudleys. Fans behind me got into a fight. Francine got touched by a fan as she was coming down the aisle, and then security grabbed the person and then yanked them off, and then they got him thrown out. So yeah, I've seen the craziness that the original ECW fostered. In this climate, in this way it is now, I cannot see it happening, especially under the auspices of Vince McMahon. I cannot see it happening.
I certainly can agree with you. I mean, from the fact that you went ahead and alluded to the old ECW where, like, you know, the beginning was created since, I guess, when Shane Douglas dropped the NWA title and, like, you know, introduced the ECW title to, like, you know, the countless Tommy Dreamer, like, you know, instances, and Sandman getting crucified by Raven. All of that, you know, that's the old days. Then when they went out of business, went bankrupt, and then, you know, Vince picked them up, did what he did with the Alliance, got rid of them for a good amount of time, and then brought back One Night Stand for 2 years. Okay, cool.
Which was RVD's idea, by the way, to help bring that along. So kudos to RVD.
And that was great because those 2 pay-per-views itself were top tier amazing, I have to say. But then something happened to the point where Vince thought it was okay to actually rebrand it and bring it back during the Ruthless Aggression era. Bad choice. Should have never done that. Because that just got rid of the aura that ECW had when you would go ahead and say it. Because then people would go ahead and associate ECW with that era of ECW. And that wasn't amazing.
And that was the common denominator that I've talked about in the past, is that Vince McMahon will not bring something back unless he can put his own spin, gimmick, slant, and bluster on it. If he didn't create it and he doesn't understand how it works, he's going to rework it so that it has his trademark, his influence, and his vision of it, and then push it out to see if it can make money. If it makes money, oh joy, happy day. If it doesn't, we just put it back in the mothballs, put it in a box, put it back in the closet, throw it on the network, and then you can see whatever you want to see from it. And that's literally what he's going through.
Can we blame him? Yeah, we can. I knew you were about to probably go ahead and say, probably not, but it's okay because I just said it for you. We can. Thank you a lot, Vince. But
yes.
Aside from that, I have to say, ECW, I wouldn't, as you say, I wouldn't want it back. Because for me, when I thought that ECW was coming back, I really thought that we were going to go ahead and get the good barbed wire days, the Francine days, the days where you would have Beulah McGillicuddy, actually going against Tommy Dreamer, even though that they are actually, you get the point.
Yes.
All of that. ECW from the old days, even though I'm a kid, I was a kid back then and I wasn't around and I wasn't even thought of around that era. Being a kid, watching cassette tapes and actually reliving those things was actually not good for television, especially if it was for kids. But I still sat there and I still enjoyed it. Even from the times where I'd actually go ahead and watch Heatwave just to go ahead and relive that Dudley Boy promo where he actually goes ahead and goes off on a mother for saying, oh, there's a mother that taught her daughter how to, so we all get the point. ECW in the old days was completely different to what Vince's reiteration was. And if you were to bring it back, at this point, brouhaha, we're not watching it. I'll just put it out now. I know peeps wouldn't go ahead and dare turn on his television for that. I wouldn't.
I'll put it to you like this. I saw a man get hit in the head with a VCR that a fan brought to an ECW show. I've seen wrestlers set on fire. I've seen wrestlers go through flaming tables. I've actually seen somebody get hit in the head with a video game console. I've seen somebody get their head grated with a cheese grater. Do you really believe in this climate that Vincent Kennedy McMahon would open up ECW and make it look anywhere near that?
Most likely not.
But I digress. And there's number 3, and there you go.
Of course. I don't blame you. That's the thing with it, because when it comes to, ECW and everything, you always tend to go ahead and relive some of the things of professional wrestling. As I said, there's many things that you can go ahead and point out that have been in ECW history where you go ahead and you sit there and you say to yourself, man, the good old days were the good old days. You had this, you had that, you had this, you had that. I feel like I'm going ahead and I'm turning into Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre with the this, like this, and like that. But you guys are understanding me. I'm just trying to go ahead and go with the flow and emotion because at the end of the day, there were some Dolphins fans that just went ahead and just ruined my mood with these names, But it's okay. But as I said, ECW stands as a constant in time for professional wrestling because, as you said, it changed the perspective of everything. Many times, of course, in this day and age, we're still trying to go ahead and look for something to change the perspective. Are we getting it as so much? Probably not, but it's okay. Why? Because truth be told, we're perfectly fine with it, right? But it's always fun because when I get to talk about ECW, there's always that one constant and that one factor that you go ahead and get to play into it. And it's this theme itself, So when you hear this, it means one thing and one thing only, right? Peeps, another day, another Saturday, another hour long of talking about professional wrestling with you, my friend. And this marks the end of Saturday afternoon's main event, episode 12. But fear not, because of course, as always, we will be here once more next week. Same time zone, same time frame, doing what we do best, and that's giving you laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. Guys, as I always say, we thank you for going ahead and tuning in. We thank you for going ahead and sitting here and indulging into conversations and sitting here and watching us do what we do best. It is with you guys that we keep this drive of wanting to go ahead and pursue this and keep talking about professional wrestling, because just like you, the fans, we are fans as well, and we enjoy doing this as much as you guys enjoy listening. So keep doing what you guys do. Keep tuning in. Keep listening to us. As I always say, if you want to send in a question, it's down below at Saturday Afternoons _main event. Hit us up. You want to follow us to get all the latest wrestling news, go ahead and go into our Twitter at Saturday Main. And it is with that I leave you on this very 12th episode on the second season of Saturday Afternoon's Main Event. That I, the Phenomenal One,
and I, the Peach Nate, where we came,
we saw,
and in the words of Paul Heyman, we conquered.
Yes, sir, indeed, we conquered. See you next week for episode 13. Signing off from the Peeps Nation, the Phenomenal One. Peace, love,